Our next honoree is Morris Clark. Another one of the many behind-the-scenes organizers for the Spokane softball programs, Morris began playing softball in the 1950s at the age of 20 after his Marine Corps stint. He played fast pitch, modified, and slow pitch, and coached youth baseball in between. He has managed, sponsored, and always has been involved in the game of softball in some capacity. In 2006, with his organizing skills as a businessman, he was the engine which pushed through the men's over 50 league, which became the over 60 league, and now the 70 league as it is today. He says, "I call us old turkeys, but those old turkeys still play." He has sponsored and organized numerous tournaments through 2015 and includes teams from as far away as Canada for his own tournament in August each year. One of our Hall of Fame members says, "What Morris did for seniors to play was a great thing for many who thought that their days of playing softball was over." For his Hall of Fame honor achievements, we welcome into the Hall of Fame, Morris Clark.
This is such an honor to be here tonight. I first need to thank a special person in my life, my wife, my biggest supporter. Played softball for 52 years. In those 52 years, I played several thousand games of softball. My wife has been to, by far, most of those games. I'd be playing anywhere from 2 to 3, 4 times a week. And sometimes she would get asked by people, "Do you feel like you're a softball widow?" And she would always tell them, she said, "I would rather he was playing softball than sitting in the bar." Thank you, Dad. I have most of my family is here. Those that aren't are in Hawaii celebrating. We have a lot of the senior players here, the young seniors and the old seniors out here. I'd like to start with just a little tidbit on how I got started in softball. Got discharged from the Marine Corps in 1957. In 1958, I was able to hook on with the newspaper as an apprentice pressman. Well, lo and behold, 2 weeks later, who comes on board as an apprentice pressman? Woody Woodard. Okay, having been in the, I was a couple of years behind Woody at North Central. All I remembered him was I'll say football. And I didn't realize, having been away for a few years in the Marines, that the softball hotbed is Spokane. And Woody was one of the premier fast pitch pitchers. And since I was the youngest guy on board at the newspaper, I was elected in between editions about 10 o'clock each night in the bowels of the press room, actually in the electrician's room, which was a large room, but the lighting was very poor. And I was elected to catch Woody every evening. And although I'm sure he didn't throw his smoke, it was still hard to see in there. So I played with Woody a couple of years, found out that I couldn't hit 200, playing against Del Jap, Stoddard, Baldy, a lot of those guys. So about that time, the softball powers that be in Spokane started a league called the Rec League. And that, I immediately went to that, and that became, within a few years, the modified fast pitch. So I played that for many years and found out an old friend of mine, Clyde Cotton, was playing in the oldest league, or actually coaching a team in the 40 and over. That was the oldest team in the league in Spokane. So played for Clyde a few years, and I actually sponsored him for a few years. A little later, I ran into another old friend of mine, Wayne Wilson. Found out he was playing for a senior team out of Coeur d'Alene. actually playing at Post Falls Quad Park. So I hooked up with them, played at the Quad Park until it closed. We then went back to Coeur d'Alene to play senior softball. Well, from Spokane, 3 or 4 of us would go 2 or 3 times, at least a couple of times a week to Coeur d'Alene, back and forth to play softball. And we'd play 1 game sometimes 2 games, but we'd end up driving more than we would play. So I got to thinking on one of these trips that I wonder if there's enough players in Spokane over 50 that would want to play. I was very fortunate to find 2 reporters with the Spokesman Review that made 2 very good articles for me. And my phone number was in these. The phone just started ringing off the hook. And the first year, about 13 years ago, we started with about 8 teams. It's now grown, Senior League has now grown to well over 30. So it's one of the larger groups in town. So anyway, it's an honor to be here, and I appreciate people who have helped me. First of all, I'd like to mention Ron Hafner and his wife Sally moved into our neighborhood, and Ron's an all-city football player out of Rogers, a 1958 grad. And when I got to meet him, got to know him a bit, he said, "Morris, do you think you'd ever should be in the Hall of Fame?" I says, "No, I don't think so. I don't think I'm that good." So unfortunately, Ron passed away a little over a year ago. We love Ron, miss him, one of the nicest guys I ever met. Well, unbeknownst to me, another all-city athlete from Rogers, class of 58, Dee Scott, was starting to push some buttons, and Dee is the one that really pushed it and got me in here. And I'm very honored to be here, and thank you very much.